All right, guys. So we're starting to put these things together. So where are we at with stuff? We're hopefully we have our bodies, you know, the foot and the rim on this thing. Again, like we said yesterday, I typically like the rim to be a little bit on the shorter side because I don't want to have like, if the rim of this is super high, you know, if that's tall, then my lid is sitting way up here. So I think it's like kind of nicer when it sits a little bit lower. So I usually cut the rim down. On these ones, these are tiny little teapots that I made here. So I'm taking that into account, especially with like the foot of it. I might leave that like a little bit on the taller side. These ones are pretty similar in there, but anyways. So hopefully you're at this point. We're all at various stages of getting the feet connected, the body smoothed out, the feet connected, the hole cut, putting this thing together. But it'd be awesome if we could get these things assembled today, you know? So that's where we're at with things. I've got kind of an assortment here that I'll kind of run through and show you guys. But starting with this one, I'll show you how to kind of clean these things up. Darn it. Somebody stole my rasp. Are you doing anything right now? Could you grab me a rasp? Yes. Hurry, we're filming. I was just kidding, you're doing good. You're doing fine. What's a rasp? Are you serious?
I don't know the term.
Thank you so much for the last extra credit.
Cheese grater.
Cheese grater, yeah. It's technically called a rasp. Okay, so we so just kind of digging out the dry boogers. So all the periods, you know, when I was showing, you know, like this thing looks crazy on there. It's way too big. It's nasty and gnarly, right? So we want to cut that down. I'm gonna cut this down by like 50% maybe, you know? So I'm gonna start by just cleaning this first. So just kind of going down, thinning it out. They're usually a little bit on the thick side. So I'm just kind of cleaning the exterior of this. Yeah, it's a little bit too soft, but that's okay. Just kind of floating around this thing. Okay, so we just got to round it like that. I can use, it's hard to get kind of in this cavity right here. So we'll kind of go back over that, getting in that little, under the neck, under the spout there. Just above the belly there. But just kind of going around this thing with this metal rib to smooth it out first. I try to do as much work on the spout as possible before I attach it. Like get it finished or nearly finished before I put it on there. I find it's for the most part a lot easier. There's definitely things you can kind of keep going with it when it's on there, but then it's on there and you don't have as much like mobility if you needed to get inside it or on the inside for something or other. So I just try to do most of that work right now while it's off. This red rib is amazing for smoothing. It's real like fleshy like your thumb. I do a lot of smoothing with my thumb because the fat of your thumb is just it's so soft. So this is kind of like that too. This red rib is really great for kind of doing some finishing smoothing, and you can get that like, it's not totally great, I guess. Over here is kind of rough, but we're getting there. Okay, so it's just kind of getting cleaned up, you know. Here. So now we can start kind of thinking about chopping this thing down. So the spout, I put the spout on almost always before the handle, because especially on smaller spouts, very often the handle is then integrated into the connection point of the spout, right? So most of the time putting the spout on is the easier way to go. So like we talked about the functionality of these things, when we put these on, we want the small opening where the liquid is going to exit. We want that to be level with the lid or a little bit higher. So usually, I like it usually somewhere around where that opening is. I think it like balances the whole form out. So something like this is gonna be good. The other thing to consider is this is a curved surface this way and around here. So my initial cut, when I cut this down, my initial cut, I'm gonna determine the bottom. This is the belly right here. So that's the bottom, so this is the top. So my initial cut is gonna come down and around, okay? I usually cut off less right now and just get, this is my starter cut, just to kind of get my bearings, and then I'll go back and I'll cut more off of that. So that right there, that's okay. It looks enormous, you know, especially like this whole bottom part down here. So I'm definitely gonna cut some more off of that. So now but it looks like otherwise the fit is pretty good. I like that better, especially like the bottom part down here feels a lot better to me. It's not like the other one was coming more than halfway down, so it just felt so huge. So that seems pretty good. So I'm gonna leave it where it is for the moment and just kind of trace this around here. So that's where that's gonna attach. And then I'll just kind of finish this up. There's a lot of ways you can cut these. I put some examples on the board over there of cutting straight down, cutting back, cutting a mouth out. The easiest way that I think is the easiest and looks nicest is just having a slight forward angle. So I'm starting back and I'm cutting forward a little bit on that. So it just kind of has like a little, it has like a little lean back to it. I think looks nice. And then looking at this thing, you know, like I think the spout is what makes a teapot a teapot. It's kind of like the eyeballs on a face, you know? So like, you're like, oh yeah, that's a teapot because it has a spout on it, you know? Like I know what a spout is that has a spout, that's a teapot. So I want that spout is kind of the focal point. It's like eyeballs on a person. When you walk up to somebody and say hello, you look them in the eye, you know? It's like the eyeballs. So especially like that little opening in there, you know, I want that to be like super nice and clean and awesome. You know, it's like, oh, it's a raggedy cut right now. So when I cut this, I'm gonna go to make that clean, but I'm also looking at the thickness of the walls here on this. Okay, so I want those to be even. If like one side is really thin and one side is really thick, it looks out of whack, you know? So I want this thing to look really clean and feel balanced with the wall thickness. So that's kind of an important piece to that. You see there, so it's a lot cleaner. You know what I mean? Go into the camera. There we go. See that? Boom. Okay. And then I might even come around to, with the sponge, I'll definitely come around with the sponge and just kind of soften all that, make it really clean. Okay. Which should I do it? This short one or a long one? Should I make this a multi-spouted one? I'll do a double shorties on there maybe. Yeah, that's nice. Something like that, I don't know. Anyways, okay, so we'll do something like that. I traced this where this is gonna go. So if you guys want to, like we talked about, you can drill out holes into this. Before we do that, we want to really figure out where this is going to sit on here. I traced this. That is not the line I cut out. If I cut out the line that I traced, this will go into the teapot because that's my exterior. This spout has a thickness to it. So I'm going to make an estimation on that thickness. So I'm going to draw a circle inside this circle, estimating how thick the wall is on this teapot. So it's roughly something like that, you know, roughly something like that. So if you guys want to drill this out, the fettling knife is a really good tool. You can kind of use it as a drill. If you guys decide to do this, to do the, make these cuts in here, make a little screen like this, a little, what's it called?
Shower head.
Shower head, like a strainer. Make this like a screen or shower head or a strainer. These have to be, I would make these as wide as you can. So the deeper you plunge this thing down in there, the wider this goes because the fettling knife tapers. So the deeper you go, the wider those openings. So you don't want these to be too small because this is going to shrink. These can get clogged with glaze in the firing process. So we want to make sure that these are really opened up. I usually just cut. I rarely do this. I almost never do this myself personally, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people like the look and the function of it. We want to make sure that these holes then are really cleaned out. So not only on the outside, but the inside. A lot of times I'll take a loop tool, a trim tool on the inside to kind of rake out all the gunk that's inside there. Can you see that stuff kind of moving around in there? So these holes need to be really clean inside there, okay? So you gotta be kind of, this takes a little bit more effort than just cutting out an opening, in my opinion. In my honest opinion. In my IMHO. Isn't that what you kids say today? IMHO? In my honest opinion. Not like my other opinion when I lie all the time. Okay? Or I could just cut that out, whatever you want. And that's typically what I do, is I cut those out. So, score this up. Which one did I do? This one. Score that up. Throw some water on there. Take a little of this water, throw it on there like this. And then we can get this thing assembled. Okay? What do you think? So we're just kind of roughing this thing out. You can blend these in if you want. A lot of times I like to accentuate that these are on here by giving this a hard edge. So I could smooth this in here like this and kind of blending that in there if I wanted to. But a lot of times I choose to not do that, and I instead go around it with a tool, like my most common tool is a pencil, and I go around and I edge the joints of all those attachments to kind of accentuate those. And then when the glaze gets in there and melts, it kind of makes those areas pop a little bit more. So I kind of usually default to liking that, but it can be whatever you want. This is a good example of the difference in the two spouts. So this small one is a pinch pot. The longer one is a dowel rod spout. So the dowel rod is longer, which means it attaches lower onto the body, right? So a thing to consider for sure. But I mean, it doesn't have to. I mean, it could attach to the top and then it would just go and be way up here, you know? So whatever you like. And then the next thing to consider is the handle. When we put the handle on here, I'm not gonna do this whole thing, but when we put the handle on here, the handle is going to come on and it's going to attach to two different angles. Like this one in particular, the back is probably gonna come down a little bit longer than the top because the top is gonna, or the front is gonna connect to the spout. And you can see on this one, it comes down the back and it attaches to the spout. So the front side of it is shorter than this one. So we kind of have to account for those different angles, but we're just putting it on in the same way and figuring the angles, scoring it, cutting it, scoring it, and getting it attached. Does that sound okay? Yeah? Okay.